Listen up.
Welcome to the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. And now, here's your host, Andrew Plaw.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the PowerShell Podcast. I am your host, Andrew Plaw, at Andrew Plaw Tech, and we have a very exciting episode in store for you today. As you heard in our last episode, we talked about blogging a little bit, and we decided this week we'd bring a blogger of our own from the PowerShell community, fellow Microsoft MVP. But before we get into that, I want to highlight a couple of things. So shout out, there is a new Microsoft Entra PowerShell module. Link to that in the show notes. There's a cool little announcement of it. Maybe I'll talk about that with Harm a little bit. I want to shout out to the giveaway winners, Sharon and Fortress. They won a copy of one of Jeff Hicks's awesome books, the PowerShell Practice Primer or PowerShell Toolmaking. So congrats to you, and thanks to everyone else who entered. Apologies for not winning. I want to give a shout out to one blog, one domain, and I'll mention a few blogs, but the domain is PowerShellIsFun.com. Check it out. That is the blog of our guest today, who I'll be bringing on in just a second. And in particular, a couple of blogs you might find some joy in. That's going to be the PSConf.EU wrap-up, very in-depth wrap-up. There's a TCP UDP listener for testing firewall ports, which we will explore a little bit with Harm. And there is an awesome PS Windows update blog. Links to all of these are in the show notes. Now, introducing our guest today, Microsoft MVP, one of 3 in the Netherlands. Harm Veenstra, returning guest. He is dedicated to this community, and he's high off the heels of attending his first conference. So Harm, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, welcome back. Yes, nice to be back.
So how was PSConf.EU? Because you just got back a few days ago.
Last Thursday, and yes, it was great. Awesome.
First PowerShell
no
conference?
Expectations. Yeah, yes. First real one and the big one. 4 days of fun.
Wow. So why did you go this year and not last year? What sort of happened with that?
Timing, and also it's not the cheapest one.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to get a budget for that. But this year it was all fixed and done, and yeah.
So you've known about it for a while, but this year you took the plunge.
Yeah, and last year it was in Prague. This year it was in Antwerp, and Antwerp's only like 1.5 hours drive for me, so that's pretty short. Most people had a way longer drive. Yep.
Nice. And you went into it no expectations. So what did it actually end up being like?
4 days of being with my people. Like really, did not expect that much people to be almost or just like me or worse.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. 4 days with my people. It is so much fun when you get a bunch of people together with a good community feel where everyone feels comfortable to be themselves. We have such a shared experience of love for this PowerShell thing, how much it's helped us in our jobs, some of the same challenges that we've encountered along the way with different little proclivities, and just getting together and sharing ideas and excitement and connection. That's exciting.
Yep, it was. And Antwerp is fun too. So yeah.
What was the nightlife like?
Great. Long.
Good. Yep. What time did the thing start in the morning?
Session started at 9, except on Wednesday morning because we had community dinner on Tuesday evening, and they already knew it would be best to start 1 hour later, so that was 10 o'clock.
I like it.
Smart move.
I like it when the conferences do that. I don't like the 8 a.m. starts after a night event the previous
I'm an evening person, not a morning person. So yeah.
So you were there as an observer, no talks this year, but not only an observer, a part-time photographer. I mean, you have such an extensive recap. Seriously, check out his PSConf.EU recap. Scroll through it. There's a lot of really cool stuff there. A really awesome table of contents. So you can even just skim to see like what kind of happened, and then click around if you want to see some photos of it or a little description. I mean, great work on that, man.
Yeah. Well, I started with a few sessions, and then I thought, well, might as well cover them all. Everyone I've been to, and including the community dinner. Community dinner was really, really great. It's people from Microsoft themselves playing games with them, doing a whole community versus Microsoft game. I think it was the cornhole thing. I had to look up that name, but yeah.
Yeah, you throw beanbags into a little wooden hole.
Yeah, Microsoft won. That was terrible, but we did our best.
I think it must be big in Seattle. They planned that. They planted that game. They wanted a W.
Taste, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it was cool. They brought a bunch of engineers out to PSConf.EU as well, which was really cool. I appreciate how Microsoft sends devs to these core community conferences. Really helps get everyone on the same page and really establish that community.
The Ask Me Anything session was pretty hard for them, I guess. They got a lot of questions. Yeah.
I mean, that's the crowd to give you some tough ones. That's for sure.
Yep.
What was some of your favorite talks? I know you went to a lot of them.
The one from Payet, it was like crazy complicated. You get so many insights. Your head was almost done at the end. And the follow along with Justin Grody was fun, doing GitHub Actions in like a classroom setup, being taught by him how everything works. That was kind of great. And well, there were a lot of technical sessions, but there was also a session about mental health in your office, how to approach people who were struggling. And it was not technical, but it was that hit home for a lot of us, I guess. Yeah.
I love to hear that. Yeah, that's awesome. Very impactful stuff. Anything that relates to mental health or actually working on communication skills for the workplace and how to be a better coworker. Those are things that are hard to learn if you don't have good coworkers. Like, you kind of have to be really proactive about it to be able to learn those types of skills. And being a good teammate is one of my favorite things about coming to work, is like knowing that I'm there for my team and they can come to me and we have certain relationships. Even though I'm not their manager, just like that is, I love being on a team and being with others and kind of on the same page with them. So great skills to have. Now, was this your first conference ever or just PowerShell conference?
Did a lot of conferences, things like Experts Live or the Workplace Dudes things, or even sessions at our own office from the Azure Platform engineers. We do a lot of meetup sessions in the Netherlands. Is that a thing in the US as well?
Meetups? Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's like an app for Meetup. It's actually called Meetup.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see sessions in your country or neighborhood. And yeah.
Yeah. I have a PowerShell user group that we use Meetup. We pay the Meetup gods every year to keep us on there.
Okay. It's probably not cheap, I guess, but it's a good promotion thing.
It is. It's kind of like the place for events in your area. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. It could be more active. I think the pricing model kind of disincentivizes some of the smaller things.
Well, that's the things that I don't see. I just see a lot of sessions which I can join. And for us, it's great. But
yeah. So I'm reading your thing here on PSConf.EU, your recap, and it says the PowerShell podcast was mentioned. Who mentioned it? What happened? I need to know. I missed it.
Well, I think it was mentioned in a lot of things from inside the keynote, all about the community efforts that are there. And well, it was mentioned amongst a lot of things, but I, of course, I made note of it because it's the most important one.
Thanks. Well, hey, and here you are helping it right now. So awesome.
Yep.
In full circle.
Yep. Yes.
You mentioned in doing our prep for this episode, I send some questions. We go back and forth a little bit to curate the perfect episode that the PowerShell community deserves. But in doing that, you mentioned you're planning on speaking a little bit this year. Can you take me in, give me some insight on that? Because you haven't been a speaker up until that point.
No. And that's something that I keep pushing away, or well, maybe next year, or well, maybe on that event. But I've been asked quite a few times during Experts Live, at the end of PSConf.EU, by a lot of people, when are you going to do a session? Is your session going to be on next year? And yes, I do want it, but yeah, it's some kind of me thing, thinking that I'm not good enough or that I don't have any content. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It sounds like the PSConf.EU community is very supportive and encouraging of getting people to cross that barrier that you're talking about and so many others experience where they don't feel like they have something to contribute when in reality, that's exactly who we want to hear from. So excited to go on that journey with you, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, and a few other colleagues of mine asked, well, we can do a session together. A former colleague, also MVP, and another former colleague who did an experts live session this year in the Netherlands. So yeah, it just might help just doing a duo session and then doing a solo session afterwards.
I love
Small
that idea.
steps.
That's my approach that I like for people as well. I did a duo session, one of my sessions at Summit this year, and I think it's a great first talk experience. And in general, I like doing the duo sessions a lot because you can kind of go back and forth, and it's a lot more fun to prepare for as well. And you can keep each other accountable and stuff like that. And you have an audience to give you ideas back. It's fun.
Yeah. So that'll be my starter kit, I guess. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. I'm eager to hear how that goes for you.
Yeah, it's something that you just have to do, I guess.
Yeah, and you have tons to talk about. I mean, you could just pick any of your blog articles and use that as the basis, because just there's something different about someone delivering it in person and sharing their actual perspective. And you have quite a perspective. You're pretty hands-on with things.
Yeah, and I like that. I don't like writing theoretical stuff.
Yeah, practical, hands-on. And I want to say that you took a couple notes and pictures of PSConf.EU and just all of a sudden decided to turn it into an elaborate blog recap is very on brand for the PowerShell is Fun branding, where you don't just do a little bit, you are committed, man. That dedication is noticed, and I respect that.
But you also have a lot of dedication, and you were awarded for that last year. And this is my chance to say you in person. Congrats.
Thank you.
I've been there. You are there, so that's great. And it's pretty exciting, just waiting for the moment that you get the email.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get it. I set my expectations like, yeah, you might get rejected the first time, just next time it'll happen. And it takes a while, so you're just kind of waiting. And then you forget. And then you're like, oh, crap, that's right.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it, man. And congrats on your renewal. Well deserved.
Well, it's not renewal time yet. Next year.
I thought you said something about March.
March this year, yes, and the renewal is for next year. But there are a lot of MVPs who think that the renewal moment this year is the renewal moment, like straight away. And no, just you have to be at 1 year, and then.
Gosh, I didn't realize you only got it in March.
Yeah, I was nominated in August last year.
Okay, wow, that took a long time.
It took like forever. Yeah, so that's even more exciting.
I think they've made some changes to the program or something. Over the past years.
In December, January, they made some changes. They emailed me about it, and then you get that email inform you that there will be another change, and you'll have to wait a month and another month.
Yeah. Well, hey, these talking opportunities, they count as your little contributions for MVP as well. So.
Yeah, but I became MVP without doing talks.
It's true.
So it is possible. So it doesn't have to stop you.
Yeah. I agree with that. Any final thoughts you want to share on PSConf.EU? People who are maybe eager, or not eager, but maybe hesitant to attend, or have heard about it, heard some good things, but haven't made the plunge?
It's worth every penny. Not just the sessions, the socializing with people, meeting people who are actually in the same working field as yourself, and they all share the same love that you do. So yeah, it's the best place to be. I don't know if there are like other events that are comparable, if in this size. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think you should find a conference near you if you can. The closer to PowerShell related, if that's what you're into, the better. But you have to find some community of people who are also out there doing things hands-on, making mistakes, learning. You need to find that community. So I know PowerShell Summit in the US, PSConf.EU. And then if you can't attend those, user groups. Because I know there's some people who will never be able to attend those two conferences based on where they live. And it would be too expensive. And so find user groups. You can attend things online for free. Watch YouTube videos of conference talks and get engaged. Reach out to the speakers. If someone says something very relevant to you, reach out. Join Discord. There's many ways to get involved.
There are a lot of PowerShell user groups. I was in modified it after PSConf.EU to the standard German one. So yeah, it's fun. They're everywhere.
Love to hear that. Now, I want to talk about a blog that you wrote about PS Windows Update. You remember this? You know this thing?
Yep. It's the thing that more and more people start to use because they need insights, they need results, and they need to automate Windows updates and not just depending on your old Windows software update service installation, I guess.
Yeah. WSUS is a pain for many.
Yeah, or even System Center still uses WSUS also, but yeah.
Yep. So, how did you stumble across PS Windows Update?
I think I read it somewhere that there was a PowerShell module for it. Okay, and then I started using it, and I actually did another blog about this, about how you can automatically update all your Windows VMs on your. I run a lot of lab machines. Keeping them up to date is becoming a pain. I completely automated it using PS Windows Update, and it's great.
Just run some PowerShell.
The solution to all your problems.
That's right. Any challenges or things people should look out for whenever they get into PS Windows Update?
Obviously, just be careful what you do. The whole accept anything, go and patch it. No, you should be aware. Just like you approve updates in WSUS, you also have to think about allowing which updates and not just running everything. But yeah, that's just basic. Other than that, no. It's
No.
good replacement for just clicking on check for updates and install all, or skipping the optional updates. Yep.
Yeah, for a lab machine especially. Perfect solution there. Also for endpoints, depending on your use case, being able to just pull what you need. You can install, uninstall specific updates, or like you're saying, accept all. Many options for you there.
You can also use it for like remediation stuff, like detecting if updates are installed, rolling back updates because there was an issue. Sometimes Microsoft patches something that you should not deploy and roll back almost immediately. So yeah.
Sometimes.
It might happen.
I don't know. Recently it feels like it's definitely fresh of mind. But Awesome. So that's a big win for some. The reason I love highlighting modules like that is like that's a very common pain point, and PowerShell to the rescue. Perfect example. PS Windows Update, install module or install PS resource, PS Windows Update. Get that, get playing, and if it fixes a problem for you, get deploying.
Yeah, automate all the things.
Automate all the things. Now, what are you automating that is not work related? Because I know you do a lot of PowerShell for your job.
Yeah.
But what about, I'm trying to get outside of that a little bit. Anything we got personal workflow automation going on?
Working on the whole ad blocking thing. For me, it makes perfectly sense. When at home, I firewall block everything. There are actually some API things for that, which you can use, somewhat limited. But I'm trying to automate more stuff, making it easier to allow block whitelist or whatever.
Yeah. And for those who don't know what a pie hole is, I assume most do, but just in case there's people who haven't, what is a pie hole?
Pie hole is like a DNS solution which blocks all sites containing ads, or could even be like malware sites or gambling lottery stuff or sex or whatever. Instead of opening a web page and looking at blinking ads, there's nothing. You have like white and right and left white space in your browser, no more ads.
Yeah, and you just take us on the router. You configure your DNS to be the pie hole, and then all DNS queries run through that, and it is configured with there's a ton of URLs that are known bad and known ads, and it blocks them for you, so they don't even load.
Yeah, especially when I'm at work and opening up a browser, I think there's this much ads on this. I did not know, but yeah. I even use it mobilely. I even use it on my phone. I VPN to my home server and use Firewall on the go. So yeah.
You got a little setup. You have a home lab?
Well, actually, I just have my Raspberry Pi at home, and I use Azure VMs or Hyper-V VMs on my laptop. I don't have a home lab no energy consuming full server size thing. No.
Who pays for the Hyper-V VMs?
It's in your OS license and the 180-day license stuff. It's
okay.
It's just on my laptop. No.
Well, you said Hyper-V, and my brain interpreted Azure VMs. I didn't know if you were using
Azure is Hyper-V, but yeah.
Yes. I just thought you were using the hosted.
No, I use locally for all my lab machines, for all my test machines, and I have some Azure VMs running, which actually make backups of my whole home network or whatever. Yeah.
So you got a little setup.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
Any cool things, any cool toys that you've discovered in the PowerShell world recently? Maybe a new prompt, maybe a new VS Code extension?
Pretty stable in the VS Code extensions. I'm trying to use Visual Studio Code Spaces. That's the thing that I learned in PSConf.EU. So I guess I'll be writing a blog about that soon. But yeah, there are other options. This is just one extra. But other than that, like editors, so that was a question on PSConf.EU. What editor do you use? And no, you should not use ISE because it's on PowerShell 5. So you can use Visual Studio Code, which can do more, but there are still people using things like Sapien. You ever use that?
I did. I had a license, PowerShell Studio.
Yeah. It's still out there, and a lot of users use it. I didn't. I stopped using it like 8 years ago, I guess.
It's pretty good. I mean, there are some things in it that would be hard to replicate in VS Code. So if that's your workflow, I mean, it supports PowerShell 7. So whatever IDE works, if it's supported, is good on me. But there's a lot of good stuff.
People who use Notepad++ for editing scripts. Okay. I guess that's a thing, but
I mean, if it works, it works. I type PowerShell into Slack messages to coworkers. So, I mean, I don't have IntelliSense tab completion there, but I'd rather have tab completion in IntelliSense if I could.
Yeah. Windows Terminal for normal prompting and IntelliSense in Windows Terminal. That's something that was demoed in PSConf.EU as well, and even tab completion. It's there, but like visually there, almost IntelliSense completely.
Yeah. You know Stephen Booker, the PM?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm going to interview him soon. Any questions you think I should ask him? Anything that he showed that is noteworthy?
I'm not sure if that was in his session, because he showed a lot of things. Everything like terminal related is his thing. But you can ask him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the terminal UI interaction guru.
Yeah.
He loves that headspace, which I find very interesting. Right now, it's an interesting time for that. But they also, I don't know, have you heard of Project Mercury?
Hear somebody say, I'm not sure what it is.
I think it's a newer project from Microsoft. I'm curious to see what happens with it. It looks like some kind of AI shell. It's in the PowerShell repository. But yeah, just putting that out there. I'll talk to Steve.
I think they did demo that in like a split screen AI asking thing. And then the question of the audience was, well, can't you just integrate that in one shell prompt and not putting it in like a separate tab or separate pane? Yeah, there was a good reason for that. Ask him about it.
Okay. Will do. Yeah, it's a fun time to be in here. Are you using AI for anything? Because I remember last time we talked, you said you are not, people think you use AI for blogs. You never use it for that. You think it's helpful for like personal workflow stuff, maybe summarizing meetings kind of stuff. But has that changed for you?
It was it's funny you asked it. I did an interview with Scriptrunner, which is a sponsor of my website, shameless plug it. But they did a few interviews with me, Steve Lee, Guy Leach, Emrys. I think I'm butchering his name.
Emrys McAnally,
yeah, exactly. Chrissy Lemaire and Javier Klinkart, if I pronounce it correctly. But he did the interview with me first before Steve Lee, and they asked me, well, do you use AI in anything that you do? Just anything? And I said, no. And then he said, why not? And then I said, why not? Because I want to learn things. I want to do things myself. I don't want ChatGPT or any AI generating code for me, which I probably need to fix right after. And then he asked Steve Lee in the next interview, well, there was this guy on PSConf who doesn't use AI, and he was referring to me, and Steve almost started to laugh. What? No AI? So it's becoming more common to use it, but I still don't. I try to learn things myself.
Yeah, you mentioned using it for PowerShell
Yeah.
and then having to fix it right after. That's my go-to. I always generate some kind of crappy code where like I would not do things that way. But for some reason, for me, just having like the for each loop that I'm going to end up having to created for me with the variable names chosen, that's helpful. But the actual code that gets done is oftentimes not very good, or
it's
maybe
more
doesn't work.
Of like a starter kit there
Yeah.
too. But a lot of colleagues come to me with their generated piece of code, and they say, "Well, it doesn't work." And then you use ChatGPT for it. Yeah. So if you don't know what you're doing or what it does, then it's even more dangerous to actually use it, right?
Yep. And it can take away from the actual, like it can be almost a hurdle to beginning to learn PowerShell when you can get like decently there from AI, and maybe it works some of the time and sometimes it doesn't. It really, you got to have someone who actually knows how to use PowerShell looking at these things before you implement them in your environment.
I think you're just making like a jump start, and you're already on level 3, interpreting a piece of code, but you skip level 1 and 2. So you would probably not understand it. So why would you run it then?
That being said, I think that once you learn a lot of PowerShell, you can use that understanding of programming and stuff like that to maybe use AI to help you with other languages to learn them faster and do things. But you kind of may run into some of the same issues if you try and use it for a new language and you don't follow the best practices that are established, or you don't know what they are even. You can potentially run into some hurdles there as well.
Yeah, if you're an admin, then you're a risk, and running code that you don't understand is like a big risk.
Yeah, but it's a space that's getting a lot of investment, so I think it will continue to develop over the years. It's very interesting to watch what happens in that space.
Yeah, curious about that. Maybe in a few years I'll say, why not? It's perfect, but I don't think we're there yet.
Microsoft Graph, you like it?
Do I like the commandlets? That's a better question, I guess.
Yeah. Interpret it how you like. And long commandlets, that's all right.
It's becoming a pain to try and look for a graph entry for certain things that you want, especially in the Intune world. You want to do something and there's nothing for it. And then a few months later it is, it might be buggy, but it's not complete. You can't do anything that you want, including Entra or everything. It's always, you can almost do anything, but you can't do that. And that's most likely the part that you want, the special new one. The new feature like a 365 backup, which is there for Office 365. I don't think there's a graph module or anything for it yet. But I would really want to have it. Yeah, it's not there.
Whenever I was going through Microsoft Graph and working with it, I came to a similar realization as you, which you haven't said out loud, but I'm imagining this because based on your blog article, discovering the required Microsoft Graph permissions using PowerShell or Graph Explorer.
Yeah.
In order to actually do anything with Graph, you have to understand the permissions or roles that you need. And fortunately, there is a handy dandy command you can use to find that. Find-mg graph command. So you type in the command you want, it'll tell you what permissions you need.
Did I miss that? Probably.
Oh, no, you wrote a blog about it. Find-mg graph command.
Yeah, there are several methods for it. Usually just throws an error, and that's the big nuisance of anything PowerShell. Big red screen. You can't understand why. But in the verbose debug, it actually tells you, without running the find command, what scope it requires and what rights you should have.
There you go. But I guess I don't read red text.
Yeah, well, yeah. It is sometimes it's just too much red text. And okay, I must have done something wrong. But yeah, but it's difficult. The whole permissions, the whole scopes, connecting, granting permissions, or think you're granting permission, but you're not allowed to do that. Having to ask another admin to approve that for you. It's a whole flow of stuff that could break.
Yeah, and it adds a layer of complexity to what we're trying to do. Because not only do you have to be able to run PowerShell and understand what objects are and how to work with it, you need to understand how to interact with an API and that some of the things you might see in that world. And there's a good amount to that if you've never done that type of stuff before.
Well, the commanders make it easier. There are a lot of people who say, well, you should use the whole invoke web request or whatever with all the token bearers and all the complex stuff. That's a big hurdle. The commanders make it easier, but still like spit out red text, which you have to fix. But yeah.
What tips do you have for someone who's just, they're like, oh, I know some PowerShell. I need to use the graph module for some work stuff. What tips do you have them for just getting started?
Using Graph X-Ray as a plugin. Put that in your browser. Do the whole configuration thing in your browser first, and just let Graph X-Ray follow along so that you know the command output, the commands that you need, and go from there instead of trying to discover it yourself.
Graph X-Ray. How does Merrill have another project, dude? What?
This guy is great. He has so many great projects, but this is something that I use it a lot. Yeah.
Graph X-Ray lets you view the Graph API and PowerShell log of actions taken in the Azure Active Directory and Intune portal. Dude, that's sick.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, link in show notes. Get that. Gosh. I wish I was just starting out. Gosh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad I asked that question.
It makes things a lot easier, and I point a lot of people to the plugin in the browser. It can be a bit cumbersome pressing F12 browser to your plugins, getting it, but if it works, it will just show you anything that you click on. If there's a Graph API for it, it will show you.
Wow, well, that's helpful. Sounds like people need to find out what more they can automate. Like go through whatever tasks you're doing manually, and you have a great starting point now to look at automating those.
Yeah.
What's your Windows terminal looking like, man? What are we customized?
No, not at all. The only thing that I have is the Git plugin. So that I can see whenever I'm in my GitHub folders if I have something pending that I should, But other than that, no fancy graphs. No. And you?
I'm pretty standard. I've gone back and forth, but I'm kind of on a standard Sally kind of way of life right now. Got nothing.
Oh yeah, so, that's the basic experience that you get when you're on a new system or somebody else's system. So yeah.
Yep. And also a lot of the people who I'm really trying to help out these days are more on that level of their PowerShell journey where they haven't really gone through and customized and learned all that. So trying to keep my head there and in some ways.
Yeah. PS readline options as prediction sources, the whole list view history plugin, the AC tools predictor, those are the things that I use. Terminal icons, that's the one. That was the one that I was looking for. Terminal icons. Makes your output somewhat fancier. But other than that, not a whole front. Instead of almost being on the left, is a lot of people have them like almost at center of the terminal because there are so many graphs in it with all kinds of stuff. I think of someone who had his heart rate, or there was some sensor in his body which actually responded to his Windows terminal and showed him the amount of oxygen in his blood or something like that. It was okay. That's a thing too. You can do that.
Okay, why not?
Why not?
Also, why? But also, why not? If you have a good use case or just want to have fun, that's a good use. Used to do
the
things.
journey is cool. Even if it's a great use case or not, the journey is also fun.
Agreed. If you're on the beginner side of things and looking for new projects and things to do, if you have some passion about something, you want to customize your experience, any opportunity you have to get hands-on in PowerShell, where you're interested and are willing to kind of soak up some info, go for it. You will only have learned.
Yep.
All right, Harm, you've been dropping so many just diamonds, gems for us on these offhand questions. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Teach me something. What's up? Give me a tip. Where am I?
Tip for learning new things, a tip in your everyday workflow. What do you want?
I want workflow. Let's go workflow.
I can't give you a tip of using GitHub for your personal stuff because everyone should already be doing that. So use GitHub for all your scripts. That's the one of the first tips that I give, because people lose their scripts. They don't know what they changed. They knew it worked last week, but they don't know what they changed. So for everything, even for the smaller scripts, put them in your own private GitHub repository. It doesn't cost you anything.
Great tip. I have definitely been on the side of things where I am editing an active script that I use temporarily and like running it and then maybe forgetting to save it. And you know how VS Code little tabs, they're like Chrome tabs to me. I open one for a short little idea here, open a new one, and all of a sudden at the end, there's so many, I'm not going to save any of these, and then we delete a perfectly good change to a script. Use source control, use GitHub. It's free. You can make it private if you're super private and got whatever kind of secrets in there, or you can make it public.
I kind of use my script saving as I use save games in games. I save a lot.
That is a great
a few changes.
Yeah, you want full health.
Yeah.
You don't want to be going to work on 20 health. No way.
No. Exactly. Yeah.
So tell me about the MSP life. So give me a little bit of insight. What do you do? What's your day job whenever you're not blogging across the world?
My day life is one of being a Microsoft consultant. I do consultancy work for hybrid workloads and the whole modern work space. So that could be like anything ranging from Intune to doing stuff in Azure or Exchange Online, 365 stuff. Anything Microsoft, that's what I always say. MSP work, I do not do that much myself. We have an MSP part of a company, and I help them out with a lot of things, including the product selection of a tenant management tool. I think we had a discussion about it a month ago, I guess, about a tool which you can use for automating tenant configuration. But that's the thing that I do for managed service. But other than that, I'm not into managed services myself. But I would want to be in there because it's automation. It's loads of automation. Yeah.
Yeah. MSPs have a affinity for automation because I think they benefit from it a little bit more than others. And the fact that maybe at your work, you'll implement something and you'll use some PowerShell scripts to get it done, but you may not re-implement that same thing. Whereas at an MSP, you might have another client down the road that is going to implement similar services. So there's a great reason for you to create a smooth workflow around it where you're accepting parameters in a healthy, happy way that's a little bit flexible. It's fun. I geek out thinking about what it must be to work at an MSP like that, where you're just improving things.
Well, it can be, you do a thing for a lot of customers at the same time. So like your default, your baseline of configuration for all your clients, you'll step that up every now and then. But does it work for all your clients? Is it a good idea to roll out we have these two guidelines coming up, like the security baselines. I don't know if that's a good idea to mass roll out that to all your customers. You have like CIS, I guess. What's your security baseline in America? Do you have like a required one?
Gosh, you're putting me on the spot right now. A bunch of acronyms are coming to my head, but we have a few. I think it depends on what industry you're in. You can sort of choose which security standards you follow.
Okay, there's no one that the government wants you to use, no matter what company. I think it's this one, if I'm not mistaken. CIS compliance. Yeah, the Center for Internet Security thing. I think that's the one. Those are the most, when working as an MSP, to me, it would seem like so hard to implement it for all your clients. You have to, but the landscape of all the applications is so different.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
I have a question. What about cybersecurity insurance? Have you heard any rumblings about that? I hear it's been an interesting space to watch, where there was sort of a ramp in it. Maybe it died down a little bit. Are you hearing a lot of talks of people making sure they're compliant for cybersecurity insurance?
That's also a thing in the Netherlands, and I think you can get a security or an insurance for that, but you'll have to fix a lot of things in your environment first. And you should be able to show your insurance company that you actually did that before they will ever pay you a dime. Yeah.
Yeah, we went through SOC 2 compliance in the past year, and it's pretty involved. Some of the things you need to do for these things, but they're good. They're good, I guess. It's kind of a challenging problem, trying to make sure that a bunch of orgs are secure, right? Like from the high point where you're kind of creating these guidelines or benchmarks. It's kind of hard to make that a perfect science.
Yeah, we try to separate them into like governance, healthcare, insurance companies, banks, because they all have their own set of security rules. If you can't divide your customers in like things like that, and you can only do the thing that works for all of them, that's probably not enough.
What's your take on the state of security in the world?
I think that we think that we're safe, but I don't think that we're prepared for. I think we already know we're not secure enough. There's always a threat. You always have to be on your toes, I guess.
Yeah, seems like there are definitely still groups that are a step ahead. I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, especially like the government hackers. I'm not naming countries here, but I think we all know.
Yeah, the advanced persistent threats. That's what we like to refer them as.
Yeah, but they have loads of money and they have a good reason to do things. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a big industry around it as well, just pumping money into it. So it's interesting because we work on.
Isn't there like MSP for security for those kinds of things? Selling it as like a security product for
Yep. Where they're like, hey, we'll be your security team and help you out here and make sure that things are somewhat compliant. So there are people working in that space because it's challenging. I can't imagine being an unempowered IT person with too much going on and then actually expecting to implement like great security around the whole company.
Yeah, in the spare time you have, like on a Friday.
Yeah. Good luck.
It's a whole week's work. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then to maintain it, the culture you have to kind of establish. You have to be, the leadership has to be at the point where they're willing to pay for something like managed security provider, or else you're not going to have the buy-in needed to like actually make change in an org, in my opinion.
Yeah, taking like a security operations center, the whole SOC SIEM thing.
Yeah. But I will say, if you are one of those people we're talking about where you got so much going on, you are hands-on with things, which is an amazing opportunity to take things under control, to get secure configurations out there, to compare your baselines with what best practice is and explore those places. There's some big wins that you can take with you, and it'll look great on the resume as you continue crossing off these security projects here and there. So it is a fight worth fighting. Definitely a struggle, but we all stand to benefit from companies being more secure.
And not only your own company.
Exactly. Not only our own company. Now, I want to take you to the culture corner, and that's where I get a little slice of your life. I would like one recommendation. It could be a song, it could be a movie, it could be a food, it could be an activity. But give me a little taste of what's life like for Harm. Give me a little recommendation. Don't you just love these random questions that we did not plan for at all?
Well, I looked back at my previous podcast from last year, in which Jordan was still there. So shout out to Jordan.
Shout out Jordan.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. What is he doing? Just slight off road here, but
yeah. So he is doing PowerShell stuff doing some contract work right now. I think he just got a new contract started and having a lot of success with PowerShell, actually getting to be a lot more hands-on with it. And I'm not surprised, but he's been making waves where they'll ask him for something, give him like 2 days to do it. He'll come back with a script in 2 hours and kind of blow their minds, which is what you expect from someone who's been doing PowerShell for a while. They'll be able to be adept like that. So yeah, he's just enjoying being an IT person out of the limelight a little bit.
Okay, that's good to hear. But in that podcast, I was looking in the text below that, and there was something mentioned about the things that I also do in my private life, other than being a soccer fan and going to soccer matches. High BPM house music. Yeah,
Nice.
you have to have something other than your normal work stuff, which you can go to. And for me, going to festivals, listening to music, going to friends who actually make music or trade music and publishing that on their own label. Well, that's great. So yeah,
you want to give us a shout out?
Completely different.
Give a shout out to one of your friends. I'll listen to him.
Are you sure?
I mean, why not? I'll put a link. It's just
okay. I'll send you a link, and I'm curious, but it's not the standard like EDM music that you might hear in the US. This is different.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm excited for that. Okay. I like house. I like high BPM. You kind of, I'm kind of a twitchy guy, so.
Okay, sounds like that kind of matches your okay, but no, you have to have like something completely different than your normal work, like a separate life or even more. Other than that, I game a lot, playing online shooters. So yeah, you have to have something to take your mind off things.
I definitely recommend that as well. I also
does have to be shooters, right? It can be anything. Can be Minecraft or whatever.
Yeah. But something different to mix things up, which kind of, I've been thinking about something lately, and that is how, healthy work-life balance is important, but also there is something to be said for that period of life or growth where you're really not so balanced and you're really kind of pushing a little bit more. And I'm kind of torn on where I stand with it. I don't know if you have to have a period of life where you're like really grinding hard and making things happen and sacrificing for yourself. I might just be the way I'm wired, but what do you think about that? Have you had that experience in your life where there was like a growth period where you were really probably working more than you should have, and out of hours you're working on personal growth kind of stuff or working on some PowerShell skills? Or have you always been kind of like a healthy work-life balance guy?
Well, when I first started in IT, the balance was more IT than personal life. Because you're so enthusiastic about it, you want to learn more and more, do more and more. You make like long weeks because you really like it and you want to learn. That's, I guess, the difficult part of it, not knowing when to stop. Now my work-life balance is a lot better, but it was worse. It was more work than personal life.
Yeah, and it's hard because if you do have that kind of balance, you will learn one way or the other where you need to figure out.
Yeah, the hard way or,
You'll burn out and you'll kind of figure it out. But I think it is healthy to chase that passion a little bit. But you got to make sure you are balanced, not only in the time period, but you don't want to be the type of person who only has technical skills. So maybe you work on that for a little bit, but then afterwards, keep grinding, keep working on those a little bit. But you got to work on the personal skills as well, because that's the way we're actually able to implement our technical knowledge, is the way we navigate and interact with our work environment.
Yeah. Work can be fun, but it can also be too much fun. And if you have no fun in your personal life, then it's all work.
No, I've definitely had it where kind of my work and my hobby was PowerShell stuff, and having a whole life away from that has been really helpful for me. Just non-IT talk. It's good sometimes. And then it makes me miss it because I'm like, these people, they're normies. They don't get it, but that's cool. I like them. But like, I need to go back to my people now. It's been real. Bye, guys. Awesome. Well, we got some house recommendations in the show notes. Link them up. Send us a video of you raving, and Harm will send you something.
All right.
All right. It is that time for the common parameters, Harm. You've been here before. You're back here again.
I'm back. Yep.
What is one tip you have for your younger self?
Other than the one that I just mentioned,
I know.
getting a good personal life balance. Yeah.
I think we can settle on that.
Yeah.
I think we highlighted that
Yeah.
one pretty good. So get a nice hobby outside of work.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, the growth in those other hobbies could give you insight you can take back to work. But learning how other things that are non-IT related work and kind of figuring those things out, very helpful, because IT is not the pinnacle of human existence necessarily. We don't have everything figured out. There's plenty to learn in other places.
Exactly.
So good call out there. With your knowledge now, no, that's what I just did. What is one time something went wrong on the job and how did you handle it? Anytime, maybe even blog. Anything ever gone wrong on the blog?
Not that much. WordPress is pretty forgiving. You have backups there. You can roll back. So that's easy. But for my normal IT work thing, well, yeah. If you don't ask people for help when there's like a really, really big problem and you think, I got this, I can solve this myself. And you just keep on hammering at it. And suddenly it's like 12 o'clock in the evening, 1 o'clock in the evening. You didn't ask anyone else. You're so like micro-focused. Next morning, a colleague of mine just fixed it in half an hour. But it was like a really big problem for a whole lot of users. It was stupid. You don't get micro-focused. You can step out, ask someone else just to like bounce some ideas off.
Yep.
Don't do it all by yourself. There's no need.
For me, it's
I learned that the hard way. Yeah.
20 to 45 minutes. If I'm on something longer than that and haven't made any headway or have a great plan I'm confident about, it's time to share kind of where I am with things with others. And if you really want to make sure you learn and work on this project or whatever problem, you want to make sure you're learning from it, you're able to, in your communications to your team, say, hey, looking for some help or input on this, and I'd love to see what you come up with so I can make sure that I learn from this. You can communicate that as well. But you don't want to be banging your head against the wall for 16 hours.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I was younger, so I'm older now. I see that. But it's like it was so easy just asking somebody else. But yeah, perhaps too proud for that, too insecure.
Wisdom.
Yeah.
Got some wisdom now. Love it. What are your 3 favorite modules?
At this moment, PS Readline, but like everyone answered that, but it's totally true. I can't live without it. It makes terminal usage so much easier. And just to be sure, I'll just type in my last profile of things that I added. The Posh Git module. And that's one of the few modules that I actually use in my terminal window. What it displays the stats of your GitHub repository if you need to pull commit or change anything, which is great. And PS Windows Update, because I actually use it a lot. So yeah, that's free. It's awesome. Just so hard because there are so many good ones out there.
There's so many modules. It's just the sign that you're using PowerShell every day. When you have more modules than you know what to do with.
I limited to 3. 238 or so in my profile, in my directory. Yeah. Perhaps it needs cleaning, but yeah.
I mean, they're there if you need them, I guess.
Yeah.
When you get a new computer, that'll be fun.
Microsoft tends to store them in your OneDrive, my documents, which I hate.
Oh, that's right. Yes. The Mac user over here exposing themselves again.
Yeah.
Awesome, Harm. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And hey, you out there listening right now, thank you for joining us as well. If you're still on this journey with us, well, thanks. Feel like you know me. Feel like you know Harm a little bit. Awesome. Check out PowerShellIsFun.com. And while you're on your computer, leave a 5-star review or like, comment, and subscribe to the PowerShell Podcast. Super special shout out to our Spotify listeners. I know there's a bunch of you. And on Spotify, you started episode 1. So if you're all the way up to this one, oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
You got a lot to listen to. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there. I hope you're learning PowerShell with us. I hope you're growing with us. I know there's a lot of people reached out who are earlier on in their journey. And hey, I'm excited to see where you go. Keep at it, one step at a time. Join us on Discord, discord.gg/PDQ. Check out the PowerShell scripting channel. A lot of cool stuff. I want to give a shout out to Josh Hendricks for joining the Gainesville PowerShell user group last week. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. He talked all about Stucco. But back to the man who's with me right here. Harm, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. Congrats on your MVP. So glad we got to chat, man. I'm glad PSConf.EU went well for you.
Yeah, it was great. Hope to be there next year and see you.
Yes. Hey, if there's a PSConf.EU next year, I will be there, and I will bring a T-shirt for you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast. The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.